Today's topic is on the importance of hydration. So, to start off, with a show of hands, who thinks that they drink an adequate amount of water every day? Good, okay.
What is
Up to you.
What is?
Let's see if I can convince you by the end of this talk that you don't drink enough water. Okay. So, fun fact to start off, 75% of Americans throughout the nation of all ages are chronically dehydrated. 75% of the country, all ages, nationwide dehydrated. So most surveys and studies show that we do get about 8 cups of water. Unfortunately, that amount is offset by the amount of alcohol that's consumed, coffee, tea, and soda. So whenever you have a glass of coffee, when I have my morning coffee, with 1 sip of coffee, you should be taking 2 sips of water.
Oh God, forget it.
So to offset this dehydration, we should be consuming basically double the amount of water compared to the amount of caffeine we're consuming and alcohol. So by the end of the day, if you think you've had 8 to 10 cups of water, but you've had, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and a glass of wine, at the end of the day, your net is calculated as basically 0 cups of coffee, 0 cups of water.
Wow.
Because we've offset that by consuming so much caffeine. Yes, question?
I assume the alcohol is dehydrating in itself.
Yes.
But when you mentioned coffee or tea, is it the caffeine that dehydrates?
Yep.
So if you drink without caffeine, like herbal tea.
Herbal teas are great. Herbal teas are much less dehydrating. The reason they're very dehydrating, including alcohol, is they're a diuretic as well. So they cause us to urinate much more often, which leads us to lose electrolytes much faster and lose water. Yes, Ruthie?
What do you consider adequate water? How many cups? Can you say in cup? 8 ounces, 24,
Sure.
16.
So we'll get to it, but to answer your question now, it's a little bit higher for males,
Oh good, I'm not.
according to the U.S. dietary indexes, and a little lower for females, but 13 cups for males and 9 cups for women a day.
9 cups
But-
consist of those.
During the summer, and while you are consuming, if you do consume sodas and alcohol and caffeine, this should be much more than 9 and 13. So it should sometimes be double this amount if you're consuming a lot of alcohol or caffeine.
But how many ounces I meant? When you say a cup?
She's going to have that.
I believe it's about 8 ounces in a cup.
Ah, okay.
Yes, 8 ounces in 1 cup.
So not bad. Huh.
So, yes,
What's your feeling about hot chocolate in the morning? Is that the same
hot
as
chocolate is good in the morning, but it is still
the same as coffee?
same as coffee.
Okay.
High in sugar and high in some caffeine. A little better than coffee, but I would still increase your amount of water consumed when you're drinking hot chocolate in the morning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, give it.
So that was the first point there I really want to stress is, you take 1 sip of your morning coffee, you should be taking 2 sips of your water right after that, and really try to combat that balance with increasing your water intake with these beverages. And so after that, 48%, our next fun fact, 48% of older adults that enter the emergency department have lab values that indicate dehydration. So, out of this 100%, let's say they don't come in for dehydration at all, it's different symptoms, but the emergency room finds that 48% of all visits of older adults, they also find dehydration lab values. So how they find this is electrolyte imbalances in your labs. When they draw your blood in the emergency room, mainly we have 2 important electrolytes, sodium and potassium. So when we're dehydrated, our sodium becomes very low. It's the fancy word for it is called hyponatremia. But when our sodium is low and our potassium is low due to dehydration and loss of fluids, this can lead to many heart symptoms, so heart palpitations, heart arrhythmias. That's the danger part of the electrolyte imbalances. So 48% of older adults suffer from electrolyte imbalances that also enter the ER for other causes. What are common symptoms of dehydration? So some common symptoms we see a lot are, of course, thirst. But if you have thirst or you are thirsty, that means you're already dehydrated. So you're already past the point. If you're thirsty, you are dehydrated. So it's important to get ahead of that and know that if you're feeling thirsty, you're very likely to be dehydrated. Dry lips and dry mouth, very good indicator of dehydration. Feeling very tired, fatigued, sometimes even confusion with severe dehydration can happen, and then heart palpitation. So you feel like your heart is racing a little more than usual. That is a common symptom of dehydration too. Some uncommon symptoms are muscle cramps. So if you get random cramps in your legs, cramps in your arms, constipation. If you start getting constipated and can't sort of connect it to any other thing going on, it could be a symptom of dehydration. And also irritability. Of course, that might not be uncommon, but with confusion, it could also be irritability as an uncommon symptom of dehydration. So those are some ways to look out. I don't want anyone experiencing these things, so it's important to know if you're feeling thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Yes, Vaughn?
I was wondering about electrolyte drinks. Are they good for us? I mean, do we need to take those? And which ones, some are heavier and some are lighter electrolytes?
Sure, yes. Most electrolyte drinks are very good, but there's a few that are very high in sugar that we should sometimes stay away from. But due to those electrolyte imbalances I mentioned, it's important to replenish our electrolytes, such as sodium, with these electrolyte balances. So I would just say, just try to pay attention to the label on the sugar content. As long as, the sugar content isn't very high, I would stick to 1 to 2 electrolyte drinks a day. That would be very beneficial. Especially in the summertime. You can have those nearby. And then if you're feeling thirsty, of course, yes.
Like
Yes,
Gatorade? Is that?
Gatorade is a little bit high in sugar. There's
but
better
the zero
options.
sugar.
Gatorade Zeros are good. If you'd like to stick to Gatorade Zeros, that's better than regular Gatorade, I would say.
There are some others that are infused with that.
Yes, there's lots of infused waters now on the market. I don't even know all of the names now that exist. But just paying attention to those sugar levels in those drinks. Yes.
My daughter gave me some powder that's to add to water, and it makes it more dehydration.
Yes.
But they're sort of sweet, so they probably have sugar in them.
Some of them don't. Some of them still do a really good job of balancing the taste without sugar. There's some really good packets out there. I think one of them is called IV Hydration. It's like a blue packet. We can send over some examples if anyone would like. But some of those packets are really good.
Okay.
Again, just paying attention to the label on the back to saying how
I'll
much
read them,
sugar.
yeah.
Vahida,
Yes.
I've read some articles that in order to replenish your electrolytes, there has to be a little bit of sugar. Now, I don't know if the monk fruit or the stevia and those sweeteners count, but
They count. So natural
is that
sweeteners are
true?
great. Natural sweeteners are good. A little bit of sugar is fine. I'm just saying, like regular Gatorade having, over 100 grams or their measurement is of sugar. Monk fruit is really great, a really great natural sweetener. Juices are good natural sweeteners if you see that in the ingredients. But yeah, a little bit of sugar is completely fine. So past that, a big cause of our potential dehydration factors coming up is, of course, our lovely summer. So we've already hit the 3-digit numbers, and it's only the first week of June, which is why I wanted to do the topic on this chat. But in the Coachella Valley, we're one of the highest UV index zones, probably in the nation, maybe top 20 in the nation. I was just watching the news this morning in our area, along with most of Southern California and Arizona and some neighboring states. We're in the high danger zone. So our UV index from now until about September will be in the very high to extreme zones. So not too many places in the country suffer from extreme UV indexes like we do, which is important to know because from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. is when the highest UV index is out. So I'd like you to be very aware of managing your day. So whether it's doctor's appointments, I know that gets rough. It's hard to get an appointment before 11 a.m. or after 3. But whether it's shopping, whether it's walking your dog, going out for a walk, trying to get those tasks done before 11 a.m. or after 3 p.m. Especially, we see a lot of heat strokes here in the emergency room. I know when I worked in the ER, we had lots of older adults trying to go on a hike at 9 in the morning, and they don't get done until noon. And then before you know it, you've been passed out on your walk because it's too hot. So really being aware of those dog walks, taking any sort of walks outside, any visiting, appointments, shopping, getting that 11 to 3 zone, really trying to stay inside in air-conditioned areas. Any questions there on UV?
I just wondered, since you're saying UV, just a quick mention about body sunscreen.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We'll get to that on one of the last points, but I'll answer that. How we should dress appropriately in the sun and SPF, what SPF we need. Dehydration, our next point, could also complicate many other medical symptoms, which is what puts older adults at a very high risk. So whether you have medical issues such as cardiovascular, heart diseases, conditions that you already suffer with, these symptoms can be highly progressed with dehydration. So it can make it much worse when we're already suffering from a medical condition and now we're dehydrated. So some of those heart conditions make it very difficult, very important to stay hydrated. Unless now, some adults do suffer from fluid retention issues. So some medical conditions that call for reduced fluid intake. Some adults aren't able to drink as much water as some others due to the retention. So I'd say with that, it's still just very important to follow a healthy diet and not consume the alcohol, the sodas, and the high caffeine items. Okay. So again, we went over this earlier, but the U.S. dietary reference, older adults, males should consume 13 cups or 3 liters per day, which is a little less than a gallon of water a day.
Oh God, and how long will you spend in the ladies' room?
And that is just to not be dehydrated. So that is the minimum amount we really should be consuming.
Wow.
For females, it's a little bit less due to males having a little bit of a higher metabolic rate than women do. But for females, it's 2.2 liters per day. So 2 liters per day minimum of water for females. Do you guys still think that you drink enough water? No. Good.
Not now.
So some examples that we can stick to combat this. Popsicles are really good. They have a lot of good natural popsicles like watermelon, fruits that don't have high sugars, they're just watermelon juice, gelatin, ice cream, sherbet.
Ice cream?
Sorbets, yes, ice cream is actually surprisingly very good. There's some studies that find that milk, shockingly, is a better, sometimes could be more replenishing than water when you are dehydrated.
Yeah, I know.
So drinking a glass of milk sometimes isn't too bad, but still keeping up with your water intake, of course.
Don't laugh at me there.
I'm not.
Some soups are really good again to replenish those electrolytes. Some soups with sodium is okay because again we're trying to replenish those electrolytes and combat that. Fruits, melon is very, very good for hydration. Berries, peaches, and then some vegetables are cucumbers. Celery is a very good one. Celery juice is also very good. I know it's not the greatest tasting, and zucchini has a very high water content. Some beverages that can dehydrate you, again, we talked about that a little, but I want to stress on the beverages: coffee, tea, sodas, hot chocolate, and alcohol. So really focusing on increasing your water intake when you're drinking these beverages. So when you're at dinner or at Cece's and you order a soda or alcohol, make sure you're also ordering a glass of water, 2 glasses of water with it.
Is lemon also okay, right?
Lemon is good. Yeah, lemon in your water is no problem. Lemonade is better than these beverages, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then staying away from the direct sun. So when you are outside, and if you're going to be outside for some reason during these high-risk hours, 11 to 3, making sure you're dressed appropriately. So of course we love to dress as little as possible, of course, to not be so hot, but trying to wear some light, loose clothing that cover your arms. So long dresses, some long sleeve shirts that are light.
I know.
It's important to not get those sunburns. Our SPF factor, so what SPF do we really need to measurement? It's sort of hard, but we all need a minimum, I would say, of SPF 30. And what SPF 30 means, when you see it on the bottle, is you're basically sort of protected for 300 minutes. So that's a few hours, but that's how it's calculated. So SPF 50 would protect you for 500 minutes, and so on and so forth. So the higher the SPF you can use, the longer you will stay protected from having a sunburn. But really just making sure, fitting it into your morning routine as soon as you get ready to go outside. Even if it's walking through the courtyard to get a meal, to meet with someone, just putting on your SPF first thing in the morning and making sure you get that done in the morning.
Yeah, but it doesn't stay on you for long.
It doesn't
So
stay
you
on.
have to reapply.
So you should reapply it every few hours, of course. And then the most dangerous conditions or symptoms of dehydration are heat strokes and heat syncope, which is just a fancy word for fainting. So fainting from the heat. But during a heat stroke, it could come with a very strong headache, confusion. Some people suffer from really bad confusion and a lower level of consciousness, let's say, during these heat strokes. Nausea. Your body temperature goes up to as high as 103 or higher. And then your blood pressure becomes very low, which causes the fainting. But our heart rate increases, so that's what is the very high danger with these heat strokes, I would say. It puts your body in a shock. So when our blood pressure is low, but our heart rate is high, our body doesn't know what to do. It's like, hey, what's going on? And we pass out. So that's when we have to call 911 and visit the paramedics, go to the hospital. Well, they will do IV hydration and make sure that they get your electrolytes back in balance. But if some other treatments, I would say, that are safe if you don't pass out is a cool tub of water. I know we don't have too many tubs here in the apartments, but big in the pool during the night hours when it's cooler. I'd say after 4 to 5 p.m. in the cool water. Cool, wet towels. So if you run some towels under the sink and just put them on you to cool your body down. And of course, hydration. So, any questions for me? Yes.
Salting your food, just using table salt,
Okay.
does that replenish your sodium properly?
It could a little bit. I'd say if you're suffering from a sodium imbalance and lower sodium, it could help a little bit, but it won't be enough.
So you still need the electrolyte.
Yeah, an electrolyte drink and having, a healthy balanced diet of vegetables and fruits and meats. A very balanced diet, I'd say, not too much of anything, but the electrolyte drinks would help a lot, and some soups, maybe high in sodium if you suffer from that.
Yeah, I don't.
Just in case. Any other questions for me? Yes, Cheryl?
This is kind of off topic,
Sure.
but we residents really get excited when Ivy Living Corporate notices us and comes out. Would you please introduce
Miss
Allison?
Absolutely. So with us today is my regional health services director, Miss Allison. She's in the back. She is our regional nurse.
Hello.
You want to talk to us?
She is a big deal. We'll let Allison say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Like Vahida said, I am the Regional Director of Health Services with Oak and Ivy. I think this is a great topic to talk about. It's very fitting for this time. I'm not around here in this area, and it is quite hot here. It's about 15 degrees cooler where I live. It was a great presentation from Vahida. She did a great job in kind of emphasizing the importance of staying hydrated, especially right now with summer creeping up on us. And again, I'm Vahida's support, just kind of here to visit. It's nice meeting you all, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to attend this health talk. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
All right, well, if no one has any questions, this was great. I look forward to our next health chat on the first Wednesday of next month, same time. Hopefully not the same place. Not the same place. Hopefully we can move inside, and I think we will be in the heat of the summer, so I don't think we'll be able to continue out here. But I look forward to seeing you all again, and thank you so much for coming. Make sure to share this information with your neighbors that couldn't join us today. I think it's important for all of us to have this information of all ages too, but when you see your neighbors and you're having lunch or dinner today, make sure to share some tips that you learned today to see if they resonate and can learn anything. Yes, Ruthie?
I have, for example, of a heat stroke.
Okay.
Goes back 10, 12 years, let's say 12, when my husband was around and we were in Palm Desert just visiting and walking along on El Paseo, and then he said, I'm hot. I said, okay, let's go back to the hotel. And he tried to push the air conditioning down to 50 because he was so hot. Lucky we had Gatorade. So I gave him Gatorade one after the other, and slowly became okay. I should have taken him to the hospital, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
It's very
he would say
important.
no.
If you're already reaching that point of,
That's what you did.
I feel faint, I'm not myself at all, you should go to the hospital. And it's always better to be safe than sorry. That's my favorite quote. As a nurse and as the health services director, it is always better to be safe than sorry when visiting the ER or urgent care to get a second opinion or just a further evaluation.
I knew what I'm doing, but to tell him to go to the hospital was no. So, drinking.
Yes.
Coincidentally, I just read that it's much better for us to drink warm water, or at least room temperature water, rather than icy.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. So it is. It's actually true that it's most of the time better to drink room temperature water than ice cold water due to that shock value that I mentioned. So if you're already really hot and you're drinking ice cold water, that can send your body into some level of shock. But also, a fun tip is in the mornings when you first wake up, it's very important to drink room temperature water because of your bowels. So if we drink ice cold water first thing in the morning, it sort of shocks your bowels and makes those blood vessels constrict. But if you drink room temperature water first thing in the morning, not cold, it allows you to have a natural bowel movement, better bowel movements in general, I would say. It really helps our bowel system with drinking room temperature water. And then of course that added factor of not putting your body into any shock when you're going from a really high temperature to then drinking ice cold water.
But Americans drink a lot of ice.
We love ice cold water.
Yeah.
Yes. But great point. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I drink tons of cranberry juice
Okay.
instead of water.
Okay.
So is that good or bad?
Not the best. I would say if you could start mixing up your cranberry juice with water, that's a good step.
Okay.
So if you'd like to do like a quarter or half, if you'd like to slowly incorporate it, and do maybe half of the cup with cranberry and half with water,
Oh, okay.
would be much better. Some of those cranberry juices can be very high in sugar,
Right.
so we'd like to stay away from that and try to balance it with more water.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? No. Well, thank you all. I will see you next month. It's great to see you guys. Take care.
That was